know. And then it can also be based on reactions, right? It can also be based on reaction. Liking a simple like or dislike of a comment can be a learning outcome. It can give you immediate feedback as a teacher if your students actually enjoyed your lesson or not. And then learning outcome can also include acquiring skills and abilities, right? When you teach a child how to write, when you teach a child how to read, that's a skill. When you teach a child how to perform some scientific experiments, that's a skill, right? And then learning outcome can also be self-efficacy, the belief that you're able to do anything. Okay, so when you inspire your students and they're able to meet up and do anything that they need to do, then that's also a form of learning outcome. So the question I want to ask us is this. I want you to think, we're about to resume school. Some of you may have not met your students, the students that you're about to start teaching for the next session. But I want you to describe what, sorry, I'm going to have to mute all of us because of the noise interference. Thank you. So I want you to describe what a perfect student graduating from your current class should be able to represent, demonstrate, or produce. So if you can type in the chat box, what is that one thing that a student coming out from your class should be able to, present, demonstrate, or produce by the time they leave your class? That child, whatever class you're teaching, whatever year group, whatever subject you're teaching, what is that one thing you want every child in your class to be able to do or demonstrate or represent by the time they leave your class? You can type in the chat box, or if you want to share with us, you raise your hand feature, use the hand feature, and then you share with us. So does anyone want to use the hand feature, or you just want to type? Then I'll just read out your comments. So if you want to speak, you can unmute and speak. Okay, so Bolaji, please, you can unmute and speak. All right, go ahead, Bolaji. We can hear, you need to, I don't know, you've unmuted, but we can't hear you.
Hello, ma.
Yes, please go on.
At the end of my class with a learner, what I expected from a learner is for him or her to actually perform.
Okay, I think we can't hear you clearly. So I don't know if there's someone else. So I'll just move on to what people have typed. Miss Miriam says the child should be a model for the objective of that particular class. When you say model, what do you really mean? What do you mean? That's your goal should be very, very clear and specific. It shouldn't be generalized. So you need to go back and think, what do you mean by the child should be a model for the objective of that particular class? Then Nkiru Teresa says to be independent, to do whatever they are taught. That's a specific skill. So you want to raise independent thinkers, independent learners. Good. So everything, I want you to write this goal down in your jotter, because I'm sure most of us have our jotters here. I want you to write the goal down in your jotter, because as we go on, you will be adding more tips on how you can make that child an independent thinker, on how you can make that child meet up with the goals and objectives of each lesson that you teach, right? So let's see if you'll be able to do that. Please write it down in your jotter. Okay, so someone says, Amuzie Ebeyi says, my students should have discovered himself or themselves rather, in terms of his unique abilities, and effectively apply the knowledge acquired during my teachings to evolve, develop, and advance himself to the greater good of society. So you want to raise applied learners. You want your learners to be able to apply knowledge in the class. Please write it down so that we will come back to all these things. So I have independent thinkers, applied learners right now. And then someone says, Nazim says, to be able to demonstrate understanding of content taught as basis for the next or new class, content and knowledge. So you want your students to be able to, they should be knowledge-based students, you know, but as teachers, I think our students should move from knowledge-based to critical thinkers and applied learners. Okay, so, but what you're looking out for is knowledge. They should just know what you have taught them. They should just show that they know it, right? But by the time we go ahead in this class, you may need to change this goal, because your goal is not just for your students to know. They can show you that they know, and if you come back in the next week, they will forget, right? So let's hold that thought. And then Onyinyobi says the students should be able to have full understanding of the topic taught and apply in both real life situations. So that's applied learning. Thank you very much. I'll stop here and move on. Now, you need to ask yourself, as you've written down this goal, for each throughout the 12 weeks that you'll be in session, that you'll be in school this term, you need to ask yourself, all these things I've written down, how can I tie them to each class, each lesson that I teach my students? You need to think about that as well. Now, the next activity, like I said, this is going to be a discussion based, because some of the things I'm saying here, you may have already heard them somewhere, you know, but I will try and go in depth. But I want us to be very, very active. Thank you for all of us who have been chatting and trying to respond. So the next thing, and I need someone to speak up this time around, the next thing here is for us to mention 5 activities, 5 top activities that the 21st century students enjoy doing. What are the 5 top activities that your students love or enjoy doing? So let's type in the chat box. What are the 5 top activities that students in your class love, enjoy, or enjoy doing? If you need to speak, you can unmute and speak.
Hello.
Yeah, go on. Please, okay, please, can
Kiangui
you pronounce your
Isaiah.
name? Kiangui
Kiangui.
Isaiah. All right,
Yes, I'm
all
from
right, all
Kenya.
right. Oh,
So,
wow, welcome, welcome.
yes.
Okay, all right.
Now, the learners, I'm teaching the lower grades, and the learners enjoy group activities.
Wow, okay,
They
group
also enjoy
activities.
this think, pair, and share. You tell them to share what they know.
Okay.
Then finally, they get you the response in pairs or in groups. They enjoy those activities.
Okay, so group-based activities. Good, cool.
Yeah, and
All right.
learning through plays.
And play, we call that play way method. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so that's what your
Welcome.
learners enjoy doing. Okay, people have been putting up things, watching short videos, games, collaboration. Miss Miriam, you can speak now.
Okay, they enjoy an interactive class, and they like working with technology.
Okay, wow, they love working with technology. Well, I have a 4-year-old son who, I don't know how he always figures out my password, and then he's able to download games. Like, even sometimes I get confused when I'm about to download a game, but he knows where to download games. He knows where to put parental control. He knows a lot of things, you know, and I can't remember ever sitting him down to teach him how to use those things, how to download games or anything. So the children of this age are digitized children. They are born into the digital age. I call them the generation alpha. Now, the generation alpha, they are born into the digital age. In fact, right from the womb, they were already seeing digitized technology and all that. So it's very important for us to find ways to meet up with the needs of these children. And if you're a teacher and you're still teaching your children in the way you were taught as a student, come to school, carry book and biro, copy long notes. You know, I'm sure many of us do that, giving our students long notes. You're losing them because they're not enjoying school. And if you have learners who are not enjoying school, it will definitely affect their academic performance. Okay, so what are some ways that we can ensure that these students enjoy school and see school as part of life, not as a problem or a chore, a major chore to do? You understand? And another thing that we need to know is that the world is facing great challenges. There are so many things happening in the world right now, so many things. And right now, the world is looking for problem solvers, people who can solve problems. That is what the world is looking for. The world is looking for problem solvers. You know, if in fact, if you look at, just do a research and find out the top 10 or the top richest people in the world and find out what they do. Just do a research on your own. Find out the top 10, or how will I put it now, the 10 richest people in the world, and find out what they do. You will discover that they are solving a problem. They are solving a problem. They are not just businessmen. They are solving a major problem. If you notice, some of them might be solving, and out of the 10 of them, about 5 of them will be doing technology. They will be solving problems using technology. Just go and find out. The likes of Mark Zuckerberg and the rest of them, because they are, the world is facing challenges. So the world is looking for people who can be critical thinkers and problem solvers. And if we're raising our children to just be passing examination right now, we need to change that paradigm. We need to change that paradigm, because if they finish passing the exams and they cannot think for themselves, they can't be independent thinkers, they cannot solve problems, simple problems they can't solve, then there's a major problem with our learning. There's a major problem with the way we have taught them. So that's one thing that we need to realize as we move on. Okay, so sorry, I need to remove this annotation. Somebody annotated on the, thank you. All right, so now technology has fundamentally shifted the way learning happens in education. When we were growing up, we used the lecture-based traditional learning and were seen as mere consumers of information. What rights or what guts did you have then as a child in primary school? I'm heading close to 40. So I remember then in primary school, you don't have the right to challenge your teacher or to tell your teacher that what he or she is saying is wrong. Now, when I started my career as a teacher, then I was in my early 20s and I started my career as a teacher. I was teaching some year 1 children, some 5-year-olds, and I was teaching them about wild animals and domestic animals. I remember the topic vividly. And then I told a child that, okay, give me an example of a wild animal. And the child said, liger. I was like, liger, do you mean tiger? The child said, no. This is a 5-year-old. The child said, no, liger. And I was so upset. I said, what are you saying? You know, what are you saying? There's no animal like liger. Don't say that. You know, that was just my first year in teaching, and I was feeling like a guru, you know, like a professor. I'm a fresh graduate. I have experience. I've worked in the bank. Oh no, I've met people, and this 5-year-old is telling me what, as in, you know. So I kept on. In fact, the child still wrote it down during classwork, and I marked it wrong. So while I was, you know, marking the orders, I said, are you sure this child may not be correct? Why not check? So I went to the ICT room then, and I Googled. I went to Google and I Googled it, and I discovered that there's actually an animal called liger. There's actually an animal called liger. Liger is a hybrid animal formed when a lion mates with a tigress or a tiger mates with a lioness. So it's a hybrid animal. So at the end of the day, I had to apologize to that child. I had to tell the child that I'm so sorry for, I'm so sorry for, telling you the wrong thing or telling you that you were wrong. So sometimes you don't shut them up. Some of these children know more than you do. Another incident happened I was teaching a child, and then I told them, give me some famous places in Lagos. Lagos is the city where I live. And the child said cactus. And I was like, what's cactus? Cactus is a plant. It's a plant in the desert. How can that be a famous place? And I didn't know that there was a famous restaurant on the island, Lagos Island, called Cactus, where they sell fish meals, as in delicious meals prepared with fish and all that. And that changed my paradigm. I stopped arguing and I started learning from the students, because when you learn, when you allow them speak up and they learn, you will know that you will discover that you don't know a lot of things, that they might even know more than you do. So how do you make sure that you keep up with the level of information that some of your students have? Is through technology. You just have to adopt technology now more than ever. You just have to adopt technology now more than ever. Okay. Now, tech-based learning education enables students to do everything from uploading recorded classes online to referring to digital copies of the topics discussed in class. So it's very important for you to, introduce technology in everything you do in class. Now, what is the role of technology in improving your students' learning outcomes? The first thing is that it makes learning flexible. It makes learning flexible. For example, we're all in our homes. If it were in the past, we would be gathered in a hall or in an event center to do this training. And then the organizers will start thinking of how to pay for hall and other things. But now we are having a flexible approach to learning. We are having a class online, so why can't you do something like that with your students? Even though you might be in school, you could organize a Saturday class where they all come in and then they share ideas about what they've learned over the week in class. And then learning is now more interactive more than ever. Learning is more interactive and learning experience is more fun for the students. Most of us have already said it, that they love games, they love playing games in class, they love interactions, they love group work. And now, more than ever, learning is personalized. Students can learn at their own pace. They can learn according to their needs. They can learn according to their skills and what they enjoy doing the most. And learning is collaborative, lots of group activities and group work. And right now, there's a lot of measurements of learning through analytics. So, it's high time we start, imbibing technical skills to be able to analyze data when we measure the learning of our students. So when you're trying to measure their learning outcomes through tests, through homework, through classwork, through various form of formative assessment, you need to start analyzing the data. You need to analyze data. You need to know the class. It's not just about reports card like what we were used to, just send the reports home and all that. No, you need to sit down as a teacher and always reflect on your practice using data. So when you have that data, you need to ask yourself, what am I doing wrong? Why are these children not understanding this concept? What do I have to do better to make them understand? And that way you will make your learning, the students' learning outcome better. So I'll allow Mr. Kehinde to, I don't know if we have any comments before I move on to the next slide. So Mr. Kehinde, can you go on?
Yes.
Take the next slide, yes.
All right. Now, thank you, Nina. So we have some tips on how, I believe you cannot hear me. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go on, go on.
Okay. All right. So I want to talk about tips on how educator can maximize technology. It's the sole aim of, improving learning outcomes. Now, what are the basic tips? Now, the first thing is you reconstruct the teaching method. Just like what Nina said earlier, gone are those days that learners are just seeing like assimilator, just assimilates. Now, Gonado says that learners are seen as just assimilators of informations. Teachers just come to the class. They're seen as let me use this word, the alpha and omega of the class. Whereas the teacher just come, just pour out the information, and the learners are just there to, to assimilate. No room for, interaction, no room for collaboration. But now, for effective teaching learning of this 21st century, with the use of technology, I think you need to, educators need to reconstruct our teaching method. We need to reconstruct the teaching method to suit the 21st century, because all these learners, one thing, take it or you leave it, they are, technology generation. The generation alpha, they deal with the use of technology. So we have to, reconstruct our teaching methods. How is it going to suit them? How is this, technology going to deal with the fast learners, the slow learners, the auditory learners, the visual learners? How are we going to carry everybody along? Now, the second one is teaching outside the classroom. Now, education is more than the four walls of the classroom. It should be seen at only when you go to school, that's when you learn. No. Now we should be thinking on how to teach outside classroom. There's something called asynchronous learning. This could be made possible, it could be through recorded lessons, recorded videos. You could record some videos, then upload it, share it with your learners. Now, on their own, they can all watch the video. And in that process, you've taught them. Now, what you're expecting the next day is more of activity. Instead of you, out of the, let's say, possible 40 minutes you want to use in class, you're not using the 40 minutes to explain, to do this. Now, if you send a video to them and they watch the video, they come to class, they have more time to collaborate, they have more time to, to engage in some activity. And the next tips is you have to assess students' learning. How do you assess the learning process? Now, most of us, I think back then, there's this, educators believe in more of a summative assessment, whereby you wait till the end of the term or to the middle of the term before you assess the learning progress. Now, with the use of technology, you can easily assess your learners as you're teaching them. As you're teaching them bit by bit, you could set some activity, online activity, which will help to assess the learner's ability, so as to know if truly they've understood the concept you're teaching them, or if to know if the method you're using, the strategy, the techniques you're using in teaching them, if it's really impacting or not. And the next one is, we have to say yes to technology. Technology has come to stay. Technology has made everything easy. You can source for materials online. You can, anything, you just talk of technology, it has made everything easy. You could record your videos, upload it, and put it on your platform. Learners can learn at their own pace. You could even, you could even add some learning activities with the use of technology that you can control the pace at which they learn, or you can even make it student pace at their own pace, so they learn at their own pace. Now, even with some of our programs and the platform here, there's this PL, which I believe, the use of technology, schools are, subscribing and all that. Now, this now makes it easier for parents, for teachers, for school owners, even for students to learn at their own pace and with easy and minimal effort. And the last tips is the reverse the learning model. There should be a reverse. We need to reverse the model in which we use in teaching. All right, let's like this now. Hello, can you hear me? Okay. Now reconstructing teaching method. How do we reconstruct our teaching method? We need to go back, then look at the way we teach. I remember back then, there was this class, I think it was a chemistry class then. This creates this fear of chemistry. You know, when the class is more or less of a passive class, where teacher needs to come to class, just read what he or she has and note on the textbooks. Where the teacher and the students now have you have minimal, no time to even interact in the class. Now, this 21st century, the learners we have, then we need to reconstruct our teaching method. Look at how we teach them. Do we have a lot of voluminous notes? All right, so these are some of the various several ways to switch the teaching method from the traditional way now into the use with the use of technology. We have the fleet method, the fleet learning, we have the micro learning, the blended learning, the mastery learning, project-based learning, differentiating lesson delivery. So we will be picking them one by one.
Thank you very much, Kendi. Thank you. So I will move on to the next thing, flipped learning. So I'm sure we were benefiting a lot, and we now know that it's very important for us to use technology in our classrooms, and we can't hide from it. And people say technology is expensive, but I believe that when there's a will, there's a way, and technology is becoming easier. It's getting easier by the day, and cheaper by the day. So with something, just your smartphone, you can join Zoom with your smartphone. You can, go on WhatsApp or Telegram, and then you're dishing out content to your students. So I feel that technology is quite easy, even with as simple as an SMS. You can dish out content or give an instruction to your students to do, and then they do it and they give you feedback as well. So now we'll start with flipped learning. You can see the picture on your screen. Flipped learning is like you're turning your class upside down. I call it turning the class upside down. And I know some of us may be applying this style of teaching in our classrooms already, but probably we not even know that we're actually flipping our class. Now let's imagine this scenario. Miss Zion wants to teach the summary of Romeo and Juliet in her literature class. She stumbled upon a movie online about Romeo and Juliet. She downloads the child-appropriate version and shares with her class on their LMS platform. LMS means Learning Management System, for them to watch over the weekend. Then in her next class, the students are allowed to discuss the movie and write a detailed summary of the story. She has just flipped her classroom. Now, what I love about flipped classroom is that you as a teacher, you are not going to stress yourself when you're doing lesson delivery, because you have already prepared the content, and all the students are doing is to consume that content and come to class and share their ideas. And then while sharing their ideas, you become more of a facilitator rather than a teacher, rather than a lecturer standing in front and just talking and talking and talking. You become more of a facilitator. You can now use your class time, your class time to do whatever you need to do, maybe group-based work, group activity, or whatever you need to do, to learn, to make them learn better. You can now have more time to do class work and class activities that will deepen their knowledge, and even practice past questions based on that topic. But when you do not flip your classroom and you just come to class and it is during that 40 minutes lesson or 1 hour lesson that you want to give all the content to your students for them to consume at that time, you want to assess them at the same time, you want them to copy notes, long notes at the same time. At the end of the day, you've just done a disservice to the students, because the students will not learn, and they will definitely forget all that you have taught them. So flipped classroom is very, very important. Now, I want us to type in our chat boxes, an example of a flipped classroom. Give me a scenario on how you can flip your lesson. It mustn't necessarily be video. It mustn't necessarily be that you're sending a video home or you're giving them a video to watch and all that. So I want us to type in the chat box. I want us to think creatively and come up with ideas on how you will flip your class. Think of a subject, a topic, and then flip that class for us. So let's go. If you need to type in the chat box or you need to speak, just raise your hand feature and I'll let you speak. All right, still waiting. We have 30 seconds more before we move on. Anyone? Okay, is anyone speaking? Okay. Okay, someone is saying, I teach mathematics. I'm still thinking of how I can flip my class. Okay, all right. So, lesson, can you unmute so that we can talk? Let me ask you some questions. Okay, Rukwa, blessing.
Yes, I'm here.
All right.
Good
So
morning.
we're going to do a little bit of back and forth right now, so that maybe I can pick your brain to think. Okay. Now, what year group do you teach?
Okay, I teach junior secondary school too.
Okay, that's JSS2, grade 8, right? Okay. What
Yes.
curriculum do you use in your school?
We use the NEG.
Okay, that's Nigerian curriculum. Okay.
Yes,
Now, can you give me one topic, your favorite math topic?
my favorite math topic is whole numbers.
Whole
Like
numbers.
one of the topics
That's
I'll be taking. Yes.
Like place
Yes.
value, right?
No. Involving LCM, HCF, squares and square roots.
Okay.
And all of that.
Okay, that's fine. Now, I need to ask, do your students have access to devices in your school?
Yes, they do. We actually do videos before the classes. Like for every week, there's always a video of the class before the children come to class.
So that's flipped learning, right? That's an aspect of flipped learning. Then I also need to ask, aside videos, do you have math sites that you can link the children
to? They should, but I don't think I've not done that. Hello?
Okay, I think our network glitched out. So I think she asked if you know of any math websites.
I said they should, but I've not really used anyone with my kids.
Okay. Now looking at the math sites, you could tell your students, refer them to the sites when you make research on a particular site, and based on the topic, you make a research on it. So the topic, you can share the link with them ahead of the class. So indirectly, they've learned a little about the topic you want to teach them. Now, coming to the class to teach them now, you're now using little or minimal effort in teaching them.
Yes.
Do you get that now?
Yes.
Now, looking
No,
at
my question is about the flipping learning, flip
okay,
class learning that she was talking about.
what's the question?
It's about the flip learning, the flip class learning that she spoke
Yeah,
about, not the online.
No, you flipped it already.
Oh,
Yes, that's like even you giving them videos to watch before the class, you flip the class. So coming to the class now, you are now coming to the class. All you're doing is you have more time to assess them, to give them activity, right?
yes, yes.
Yes. Now the students even have more time to collaborate amidst themselves, where you can have group work and individual tasks
Yes,
to do as well.
yes.
So that's exactly what she's talking about. Unlike
Oh,
if such video has not been uploaded, right? And they're
yes,
coming to class, you spend most of your time teaching them the concept, right?
yes, definitely.
Now,
Yes,
now
definitely.
looking at the 40 minutes you have to teach them, you discover that you spent 20, 30 minutes teaching them, whereby you have less time to access them. And at the end of everything, what you just have to do is, give them assignment, right?
Yes,
Which might not be well supervised, unlike the activity, they do in class.
definitely.
Yes, so that's it. So let's look at
Thank you.
are you welcome?
Okay, please, Mr. Kende, could you share from your slide? From your end,
Okay.
rather. Share your slides. Thank you.
Are you welcome?
Hello.
Yes, you have a question?
Yes,
Before we
sorry,
move on.
I wanted to ask something about this mathematics. You're talking of maths when it comes to flipped learning.
Flipped class,
Uh,
yes.
we understand we have some apps like the mobile apps in education where maybe you can use them. I don't know whether they would be better to be used in a flipped app. For example, we have these measurement apps, the guided discovery application apps, drawing and graphical apps. Are they applicable when it comes
Yes.
to or simulation
Yes,
apps?
exactly. Anytime you try to introduce students to a lesson before they get into that class, you're flipping your class. People think, but we're now focusing on technology. Remember when we were in school, when our teachers would say, go and read so chapters in a particular textbook. And then when we come to class, we'll discuss. That's flipped learning. But now we are infusing technology to make flipped learning easier and more fun for our students. Do you understand?
Yes, you are
But
right.
you need to plan.
Okay,
Yes,
so
you
in
need to
other
plan.
words,
If you do not plan and you just want, yes, go on.
yeah, I was saying, the problem sometimes is with us, the teachers. Fine, I'm teaching at the lowest level, but you find that most of these apps can be used with the learners in the upper level, maybe secondary schools and upper level of the primary or elementary schools. But you find that the teachers have not resourced where they can access these apps, or they do not have the gadgets. And maybe the other problem could be a communication problem. The network is still a problem. Like in my case here, where I am in Kenya, it is a remote place, so it is hard to use these apps. But I'm happy that I've learned that those apps can be used successfully when it comes to flipped learning. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, the thing is that we need to plan. As a teacher, you need to have plan A to Z, not just one plan, right? If this doesn't work, what else can I do? If there's going to be a network issue, can I do a recording, and then the children can even watch it after school? You understand?
Yes.
You can call them to gather around your table and then they just watch. You mustn't necessarily be, for example, what if you're teaching students whose parents do not have access to internet? Or you're teaching students whose parents will say, I've paid school fees, don't disturb me again after payment of school fees, or they don't have devices. It doesn't mean that you're going to deny those children of technology. Are you going to deny them of getting exposed to learning through technology? You can plan. You plan ahead. If you have a device, and for me, having a device right now as a teacher is not a luxury. It's a necessity, except you do not want to grow as a teacher, except you do not want to become better. Now, teaching is beyond the classroom. if you're thinking that because I'm a teacher, I just need to limit myself to my students and my classroom, then you're not going to grow in your career, right? I started
Yes,
teaching
yes.
online. I started teaching online even before the lockdown. I started teaching, let me share my own testimony with you. I started teaching online even before the lockdown, like 3 years before the lockdown. I already had students I was teaching from the UK and from Canada. Yes, and from Norway as well. In fact, my very first student outside Nigeria was from Norway. And I was taking them in English and in science, you know. So when the lockdown happened, I didn't struggle as a teacher. I didn't struggle as a school administrator. I just went seamlessly into the process. And that was in fact, I think during the lockdown, I made the highest amount of money in my career because I started consulting for a lot of schools. I started training teachers. I think that was the genesis of my career peak. Of course, I've been doing this, but I had a peak that period. And when I was, investing in myself, getting my own devices, getting whatever I need to help my work easier, a lot of my colleagues then were mocking me. They said, "You're wasting money. How much are they paying you? How much salary are you paid that you're going the extra mile to do this?" But in the long run, you're doing it for yourself. So if you invest in yourself, invest in getting devices, to help yourself, to make work is for your own good, because work will be easier for you in the long run. Then after school, you can call the children around you, and show them whatever you want to show them and tell them, okay, make your jottings. In the next class, we'll continue with this. If you have an ICT room, liaise with your ICT teacher, upload content on your computers in the ICT room, and let them go there after school. Instead of loitering around and playing, they can go there and watch a video that you want them to discuss in the next class. They can go there and play a game that you want them to do, and then you use that feedback from the game to teach in your next class. Another way you can flip, especially for math and science teachers, is you can give them a game. I call it entry test game, where the students will play a game on that topic to even know what they already know, to know if they already understand that topic, so that you will not waste so much time beating around the bush. You would know what to focus on in the course of your lesson. And all these things have to do with planning. A teacher does not just plan once a week when you're planning your lesson plan. It's ongoing. You do it every day, and you try to implement it and be consistent and stick to it. All right. So I don't know if Roland has a question. Roland, do you have a question?
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually joined so late. So my is in if you can in 3 lines give me a brief summary of flip learning, what it is all about. I know you have just concluded, but I just needed more
Okay.
light because I joined so late.
Okay. So oh wow. Okay. So sorry about that. However, this training is being recorded. So if you would
Hello?
Okay, I think she's having some challenges with the internet. So I think what she's saying is that this session is being recorded. So I think at the end of the training, at the end of this webinar, so the video, the link will be shared to everyone. So you access the video. Is that clear? Is that understood, Roland?
Yes.
Okay, so moving forward. Now, how to flip a class? You buy in, you get your accurate resources, all the resources that will be needed. You must get them available before you can flip a class. Then the next thing is your classroom management, which I believe is another thing where most teachers always get it all wrong. You need to be able to manage a class, after you've given them the available resources like YouTube. Now, in this classroom management, the YouTube, I don't subscribe teachers giving links to students to watch videos, like YouTube videos, because of some insensitive ads that might just pop up. So it's always advisable for a teacher, if you want to relate them, you want to give them video to watch on YouTube, it's always advisable for a teacher to download a video and upload the video or share the video with the learners rather than giving them the links, to watch the video. And also there's for technology training, you must be able to use the technology, which I believe most teachers are still lagging behind in some areas. We must seek for knowledge on how to use technology. Just like what you said, you need to invest in it. I know you might find it very, it's not easy at first, but what you invest becomes part of you. You are the one now that is now enjoying it. Now assign content for assignment, for homework. When you have, after you've flipped your class, you've done activity, then you have to assign some content, some homework for them to practice as well. Then students work problems in class. When they are working, if this one working problems, this is solving problems. Now this one includes applying real life experiences in your teaching, be it mathematics, be it any subjects. They must be able to solve problems, because one of the 21st century skill is problem solving. And all these 21st century learners, we are grooming them to be problem solvers. Now, you must be able to relate the content, the topic you're teaching them. How does it relate in solving a problem in the society? If you're teaching them any topic in math, how does it relate to solving a problem in the society? Those are things we have to look into in planning our classes, and also independent learning. Now, independent learning, just like when I talked about the asynchronous learning, just like the flip learning, the same thing as independent learning, that is when they learn on their own. Through the videos you uploaded or the materials you've uploaded or anything you shared with them to facilitate the learning. That is all about the independent learning. Now, I need us to please unmute. I need 2 to 3 people to talk about what we have on the screen. What does this score tell you about how children learn? I give room to 2 to 3 people to unmute or to raise their hand. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I need 2 to 3 people to talk about what this score is telling us about how children learn. Yeah, anyone?
Okay, from this call, it's showing that immediately a concept is taught to children, they understand and they can remember it. But as time goes on, the retention, how long, like the information that they've retained gradually reduces. And that's why most times before an exam, a concept that they understood or a classwork that they got, they may not be able to, most of them cannot even write it again because they've forgotten.
Okay, so do you have any other person saying something about the call? Okay, our Fitz Mokocha raised her hand. Okay, you can unmute.
Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
From the curve, I can see that retention level is very high immediately after a concept is being taught. But as time goes on, just as the first speaker has said, the retention level drops. It drops very much after few days, unlike when it was immediately taught. So immediately children, they tend to understand and learn every bit of what you taught them. But as time goes on, they forget what they have been taught.
Okay, all right, yes. Now, we know that for sure, that when you teach learners, immediately they have in-depth knowledge about it, but 20 minutes later, it dropped like almost average of half of what you've taught them, they've forgotten. Now, if you look at all these things very well, the more you involve them in the teaching, so the more you involve them in the teaching learning process, that's again improves the level of assimilation, the way they assimilate what you taught them. When you are just there teaching them, telling them, okay, if you want to add x plus y, okay, x plus 5 equals 7, what's the value of x? You are the one doing everything. You didn't involve them in the learning process. Before you know, at the end of the class, even before the end of the class, some are lost already. So even after the class, a few of them will be able to retain all what you've taught them. But unlike when they are now seen as, they are involved in the learning process, you are seen as just a facilitator to put them through on what to do. Now this one
and to also add to what you just said, it's also important for us to know that this curve was actually it was a research conducted in the United States, and it's been used till today to show, it's called the Edinburgh's approach. Now it shows that we need to constantly assess our students. We need to constantly assess our students. You can't just teach them and then leave them till it is time for an examination or it's time for a test before you now do a revision. Most of us, our curriculum shows that, okay, after teaching for like 8 weeks, the 9th week will now be revision, the next week will be examination. If you are just teaching and waiting for only 1 week to revise all that you have taught children in 8 weeks, then there's a problem. You need to constantly review what you teach the student. And how do you do that? That's the next thing we're going to look at now. Please go to the next slide.
Okay.
So that is what we call micro learning. So what is digital micro learning? Digital micro learning is a method of learning via short, bite-sized and well-planned units that the students can consume digitally, right? So you can pick a topic, for example, let's say LCM, I'm picking math, and you break down that topic into small bits of information. You're not packing everything at once in the minds of the children. You cannot teach LCM in 1 week, for instance. You break it down into small bits. You could start with the meaning of multiples, and then they practice multiples for a whole week. And then you move on to maybe using the listing method for LCM, and they practice it for another 3 days or 2 days or 2 lessons. And then the next lesson, you go into the factorization method of LCM, and then you get the answer right. So you need to think of the content and then break it down into manageable steps. And then after each step, you are assessing them. You are not waiting till you are done with the entire subtopic before you start assessing them. And this is easy to do using technology because you might not have all the time to talk and talk and talk. So if you have an LMS platform like Edverse, like what we create at Edverse, if you have an LMS platform or a school management system, if your school doesn't have one, please, as a teacher, you should be an advocate for this kind of things. You should advocate for your school to start investing in LMS and school management systems to help your job easier. Now, if you have something like that in your school already, even before the students start learning that topic on your own during the weekend or during the holiday, you can create lessons in bit size, in small sizes, in bit size, and then you upload content on your LMS. So when the students are learning, you can tell them, okay, go to unit 1, unit 2, lesson 1, lesson 2, go and read up about this, go and watch a video on this, go and practice the game there, go and do this, go and do that. Now, as you're teaching them new topics, let's say you're done with LCM and you're moving into HCF, when you want to give classwork on HCF, ensure that the previous things that you have taught in mathematics for that term is appearing. So you can say, okay, every 2 weeks, I will do a review of everything we've been learning. Every 2 weeks, it can be a fortnight thing. So that way, the students are not easily forgetting whatever you've taught them. So you hear us say as teachers that the students have forgotten, that they don't study. they don't read on their own, they don't study on their own, they are always forgetting what they are taught in the class. So you need to ask yourself that, okay, what can I do to ensure that my students don't forget? If your students forget what they have been taught, I'm sorry to say, it is your fault. It's your fault as a teacher, because you have left them cold. Even you as an adult, if all these things I'm saying, if I come to you in the next 1 week to say, can you tell me everything I taught you, you won't be able to recount everything, right? But if I give you an activity and I say, now that you have learned flipped classroom, go and do this in your class and give me a report. Or you have a head teacher that says, I want you to be flipping your class every time I come in to supervise your class. I want to see that you are using micro learning anytime I come in to supervise your class. There is no way you will ever forget what flipped learning and micro learning is all about. So that's one thing that we need to also try and practice in our own classrooms when we are teaching the students. Okay, so as a teacher, you need to break down learning into short, manageable pieces of information. So I'll stop here and ask for questions. Do we have any question? Any question? Okay. All right. Thank you very
Hello,
much,
ma'am.
Nancy. Yes. Onyinye.
Okay, good morning, ma'am.
Morning.
Ma, please, my question is, you said as a science teacher, you should learn how to play a game. So in terms of flipping the class, please, I want you to explain more. How do I play a game? That's my question.
Okay. All right. I think let me
Yeah,
answer.
I'm listening.
No, I think she asked how can she play game in our science class?
Yes.
Okay. I think I will answer that. I will answer that. Now, gamified learning is another aspect which I believe teachers as well can use in teaching, most especially maths, science teachers, even English teachers. Now we have some online games, interactive online games that are engaging. You can use to engage your learners. They'll learn even more. Not to them, to you, it might just as a game, but they are being assessed, and based on what we're saying, the use of technology, that is exactly one aspect we're pushing out for. Now, when you give them some online games, you can browse on online games. Now, based on the topics we want to teach them. Do you get that now? Or quizzes, some quizzes, just like one of the, I think one of our products here at Headbest. Now, when you have some quizzes that is topic-wise, when you give them such questions, to you, it's like a game, but they're enjoying it and they're learning. So that will facilitate. And also, you can even use a simulation in teaching them, whereby they're seeing what they're seeing is they're simulating like a real life of what they're doing. That's like teaching them something like electricity connection and all that, and they're connecting directly on their laptop, on using their system. Now, one thing is that I think research has shown that students learn more when they are being involved. What they do, they have high retention than what you tell them. Thank you. Is that clear?
Yes, well understood.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes. I happen to be teaching literacy and numeracy at the lower grades. Now, when it comes to this micro learning,
We have
under phonological awareness, let's say I'm handling oral segmenting or oral blending. In a day, I have a 30 minutes lesson to teach maybe oral segmenting, where we can only teach 3 sounds. That is to recognize 3 sounds and maybe their letter names. For example, the word mat, where we have sound art. Now, how do I apply this micro learning? Can I deal with one sound at a time? That is to make it easier for them to understand before I teach the whole word that contains the 3 letters.
Okay. Yes. Now, one thing about we teachers is that the first thing we put, we always put at first is the curriculum. We must complete it. We must complete the syllabus. That's why most of us, we always rush the students and neglecting if they have in-depth knowledge on what we're teaching them or not. We believe that they can just visit their textbooks to learn more about it, right?
Yes, you are absolutely right. That is, we consider the syllabus than the content.
Yes. So in that scenario, micro learning is all about you bringing them bit by bit. You could just focus on a particular sound, right?
Yes.
Now focus on the sound, test them on it. After you've taught the topic, you assess them, and before you know, when you now discover their mastery, their retention ability, you can now move to the next one. Exactly.
Yes, you are right. So
all this boils down to proper planning.
I think the curriculum developers also have something to do in connection to that, because you realize that recently I learned that some countries, they just give a specific period of time for dealing with certain concepts. For example, if it is this phonological awareness at the lowest level, they take maybe 3 months handling that phonological awareness alone. But like in my country here, under the competency-based curriculum, which is 1 year old, we have issues. They want to cover the syllabus and not the contents. So you find that under differentiation, some learners actually are left behind.
Okay.
Yeah,
thank you. Are you welcome? So as a teacher, you need to break down learning to short, manageable pieces of information. Micro learning could just be, per concept, could be 5 to 10 minutes. It could just be 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, I think we have a question. Are there games suitable for different subjects? If yes, what example of games can I use for civic education and government subjects? We have some online games that could, we have some online quizzes games that could, fit into that. Quizzes. From there, you can see quizzes. Now, based on the topics you're teaching them, when you just type the topic, it brings out some questions and some, classes. So you now look at the class and the question, how is it related to what you're teaching them? So as a teacher, this one is the part of the planning. You must be able to plan. Go through all these things before you enter the class, so that you just be, after entering the class, you now be blabbing and start, looking at, oh no, this one is not working. Let's look at the other one. So if you have a proper planning, you must be able to make research on some of all these games online. Then prepare must be included in your lesson plan, so that when you come to class, you know what to do in the process of teaching learning. And then, are you there? Okay, now how does micro learning benefit your classroom? It maintains attention span. It maintains attention span. Now, all you're focusing on is just a particular part of what you want to teach. Let's say, for example, as I'm a biologist, I want to teach topics like genetics. I could start with the basic form, which is just talking about the introduction to genetics, talking about the definition, and explaining some of the terms in genetics. Now, unlike I have this plan, okay, I just want to teach them, okay, definition of genetics, the study of heredity and variation, then we'll move to terms, neglecting some of the needed terms, which needs to be explained. Also, it saves time and energy. When you use micro learning, it saves your time and your energy, because everything is, be it by bit. No, with this one, you don't have students raising their hand after teaching for an hour, student now raising their hand. Please, ma'am, I have a question whereby you need to start re-explaining again from the beginning. Remember, each unit should be tied to learning objective. So just like what I said, in my learning objective, it could be students should be able to define genetics, right? Students should be able to, explain the meaning of heredity and variation. And again, it makes the class more interactive because it is just bit by bit. It is bit by bit. So, and again, we don't, you don't overwhelm your students. When after reading like 2, 3, 4 pages, and you are still telling them, you go to the next class to complete the notes. Now, all these things again, it makes the class more boring. But when the students already know your class, bit by bit, they find the class more interesting and more engaging. Are we still together? Hello?
Yes, we are here. We are still together.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yes,
now,
we are here.
All right. When not to use microlearning? Now, microlearning is not useful when students want to learn some complex skills or processes. It's, when you want to learn about musical instruments, you might not be able to use microlearning. Imagine when you want to learn some skills like musical learning, project management, instructional designs, or any software tools, teamwork or sales, you might not be able to use microlearning because this one now might involve a comprehensive explanation, right? It might involve comprehensive procedure, which you might not be able to use microlearning in exhibiting it. All right, I think I have someone here. Most science classes are guilty of overwhelming children with too many notes. Yes, I know science classes, that's when you're talking about biology, I think every one of us, we have this belief about biology. Biology is all about notes. And funny enough, we won't ask question in biology. As biology examiner, we know that the notes, the questions they asked about it, they don't really ask much notes. And some of these okay,
all right, so I'm sure we are gaining a lot from the lesson. There's a lot more for us to learn, but I don't know if we still have time. So I just wanted to find out from the organizers what time the training is supposed to end. So that
we are ending by 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock. Okay, thank you for letting me know. So we'll just go on. So we've talked about that. Now let's talk about blended learning. Blended learning, I'm sure some of us have heard about blended learning. Blended learning is also called hybrid learning model, where you have face-to-face learning, remote learning, adaptive. So it's like you're mixing traditional learning and technology at the same time. You understand? You're doing face-to-face teaching, you are teaching in front of the class, and at the same time, you're bringing in all these other methods like flipped classroom and everything at the same time. So for me, the best approach in the 21st century, for me personally, in my experience, is blended learning, because blended learning still maintains that traditional model. So as a teacher, you're not struggling so much when you're blending your class. Now, I don't know if someone has a question. Sunday, do you have a question?
Yes, is observation, ma.
Yes, sir.
This one, as if your line is being disturbed by network, and the assistant was actually trying to make a point before you came in.
Oh, okay. Yes, I know. Yes, I know. I think his own network went. Yes, he was talking about what? Sorry.
He was actually talking about how you can overcome giving. And I am actually trying to key into that
Oh, okay.
If he can,
Wow, your
so that
line
we
is
can
actually
learn.
breaking. Your line is actually breaking. I can't hear you clearly.
Yeah.
Can you repeat?
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, what did you say?
I said, I don't know if he can still be given the opportunity to throw more light on what you're saying about biology.
Okay, about genetics, when you were talking about genetics.
Yeah, talking about how you can avoid giving too much notes while teaching biology.
Okay, now let me throw more light before he comes back. I think his network came out. Sorry about that. That's our African network. So these things happen. That's why we should always have plan B. And that's one of the reasons why I brought him up, just in case my network misbehaves, because I'm not currently in Lagos, I'm in Ekiti. So I was just thinking of how I can manage the network issue. So now for me as a principal, I've been a principal before, and when I was a principal, I banned long notes. I know that you may not have the luxury to be able to do that in your school, depending on the kind of supervisor you have. But for me as a principal, I actually banned long notes because for me, it's irrelevant. Let's think about when we were students, when we were children. How many of us actually go back to read our notes, especially the notes given to us by our teachers, because sometimes they are voluminous and long and we find it quite boring. Instead, we form our own notes. For those of us who were smart, we form our own notes from textbooks and all that. So what I tell teachers is that your class time should not be used for long notes copying. You should teach, in fact, from grade 7, that's JSS 1, if you are teaching secondary school, you should teach children how to do note taking, how to imbibe the skill of note taking. So they are forming notes while you teach. They are forming their notes while you teach. They are jotting down points. And then secondly, you give them, that's why technology is very important. You would have designed your notes already, in Word form or in PowerPoint, maybe your slides or your notes, like what we are doing now, and then post it on your LMS. Or if you don't have an LMS, you can use simple technology, something as simple as WhatsApp. Send it to their parents. You can create a WhatsApp group for your class where you send information, or you can create a Telegram group for your class where you send information to your students, send notes, so that they can study on their own, but not that you are telling them to go and copy that long notes in their books. It doesn't make sense. Do you understand? So with micro learning, you're breaking down the points, and then the students then your classroom should be a practical based class. Your classroom should be a discussion based class where your students are sharing ideas with you. You're doing activities, you're doing past questions, you're solving classwork together. You understand? You're discussing, you're debating. Then on their own, while this is happening, they can be forming notes. It's a very good skill. Even adults, some adults do not know how to form notes. And that's why from GS1, when I was a principal, I ensured that the first 3 weeks, the students learned note taking in class. They were not doing a lot of things. I just made sure that they learned how to take notes. And it helped me because my students, they cleared the first IGCSE examination we did. They had the 2 students who wrote it had A's all through. Not because they are the smartest, but because they've been able to apply, knowledge. And most of these examinations, our exam bodies are beginning to change the way they even ask questions. If you notice, even WAEC and them IGCSE, the Cambridge IGCSE, questions are applied questions. So if your students, if you're waiting till it's time for the exam to start teaching them or how to answer questions, then there's a problem. These are the activities that you should be doing in your classroom, not note taking. So if you do not have the opportunity for your supervisor to ban long notes, what you can do is to upload any long notes that you want them to study online using any of these social media platforms I've talked about or LMS I've talked about, and then you will now use it step by step in teaching your students in class. I hope that answers your question.
I don't think he's there again. I just wanted to add one or few points to it.
Okay, go on.
Thank you for that question. I am a chemistry teacher.
All right.
And then of course, when I started teaching, I faced that issue as well. Because people like me, when you come out of school, you are fresh, especially when you come out with your first class, you are the best in your school and the likes. You want to show people that you know it. You combine like 7 textbooks together, and then you form a note. The notes are much and voluminous. And then we go to class, they copy notes. You also teach them, and then you find out that on the long run, students do not really learn. Now, over time, that is why this kind of training is very important. Any teacher now that is not imbibing technology is doing harm to himself or herself. For instance, now, I have e-notes from SS1 to SS3 already. So I sent it during the holiday. So I just wanted to share my practical experience. I sent it. What I do now, I don't stress myself again, not because of anything, but because to make the learning much more effective. I have e-notes. I've sent it during this long holiday. Students have started reading. I have created videos. I have created audios. I also created PowerPoints. And then I also created workbook. So it makes it much more easy. And then on that platform, it makes it much more easy when I go to class. So when I want to go to class now, I am not much. The note now is not. The idea is that when we're going to discuss in the class, we argue, we discuss, we solve. I begin to make some additional points, and I tell them, write short notes on whatever we are able to say in the class. So they are also, apart from my notes, in their own notes, of course, to fulfill.
They're making they're reflecting. So their notes, a student's note will not look like a reflection note.
Yes.
You understand?
So
they are reflecting on what you are saying. You can put a debate, you can put a past question and say, let's solve this together. That is what will be in their notes.
Yes,
and then they are jotting down points, you know?
Yeah, so because so one of the things I say, okay, one of the things I told them in the school management is that, okay, we must write notes because the ministry wants us to write notes, and then of course it is compulsory. So so for me to now demystify that note taking, because some of these subjects are voluminous, and you observe that a lot of teachers want to rush just to, especially you are teaching chemistry and you are very good with teaching chemistry, you want to do a whole lot of things with it, but because of that, you just watch the lessons, the students do not get, and that's why you see a lot of students do not really understand these topics.
Exactly, and they are failing in their exams.
It is very, very important.
Yes, thank you very much. In fact, you've summarized everything we're talking about today. You are a model teacher who has used technology to make learning easier for yourself and for your students. That is just what you have just shared with us today. And I hope some of us here are learning, and I know that some of us are even doing more than what you're saying, but let us learn, get more ideas, and then connect with one another. Thank God, I heard the organizer saying that people are on a platform already. Share some of these ideas, once in a while, about some successes that you're having in your classroom and what you're doing to generate such successes. So you need to share this, and that's why we're here. That's why I'm so passionate about sharing ideas about technology. In fact, I'm an advocate for technology because it has made life easy for me as a teacher. So I feel that all of us should delve into it as much as we can. Okay, so thank you very much, sir. So I was talking about blended learning. In fact, blended learning should be a topic on its own. Maybe I will not go in depth into this. Maybe when I'm invited to come and speak with this platform, on this platform, anytime, I will focus solely on blended learning, because blended learning is quite broad. We're going to do like a bit of practice. Probably the day I'll be taking blended learning, it might be a practical session where I'll be showing us various videos of the various models of blended learning and how you can apply it in your class. But let us just understand that blended learning is a hybrid model, and then it addresses students' needs better and quicker, and it also encourages differentiation. So when you flip your classroom, is an aspect of blended learning. But besides that, there are other ways of method of blended learning. We have the a la carte model. We have the a la carte model. We also have a model what we call the rotational model. The rotational model, where you put your students in groups and then you give them different activities. So in the class, they are doing different activities at the same time. You understand? And then you give them a timeline, and then once that timeline elapses, they switch to the next group, and then they continue the next activity that they can find. But this requires a lot of planning on your part. You need to plan. Now, I tell teachers that it's not good for you to pack all these ideas and then start applying it immediately. You can tell yourself that for this term, I'm going to just be flipping my class. I'm just going to be flipping my classroom, right? And then in the next term, I will go into micro learning. Everything about me will be micro learning, so that you can gain mastery of, you know, every skill or every method that we are talking about today. Or you can, it depends on you, or you can tell yourself that, okay, for this week, I will do flip learning. For next week, I will apply one of the blended learning models. For another week,
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so based on what she's saying, you need to plan your class on some of the skills to use, some of the methods or strategies you want to use in teaching the learners. So let me share my screen. I think.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Okay, so as I was saying, if your school hasn't started using an LMS system or a school management software, please, I just want to talk about EdVest right now, that you should start thinking of using EdVest, because EdVest will solve all these problems that we've been talking about, and it will make you focus more on the nitty-gritty of your job, which is ensuring that your students learn and achieve high level of academic performance. And guess what? As teachers, as educators, you can also make money for yourself just by introducing your school to EdVest. So for the referral program that we're running, you can make 20,000 naira just by referring a school. So wouldn't you rather gain knowledge, gain the technology, and make money at the same time? So think about that as we go on. Someone's hands are raised. I don't know if our time is almost up. The organizers, do you have something to say or ask? All right, Mr. Kende, you can go on.
Okay. So now let's talk about the next one, which is the mastery learning. Now, mastery learning focuses on mastering a topic before you move on to a more advanced one. Now, this one sounds logical, though it's not absolutely, it's not what we're doing in our school today. No, what we just want to do is we're not even after, just like what I said earlier, we are not after mastery, we are after the completion of the curriculum. So it's not fair that we force students to gain 100% mastery of the curriculum when what they will need is less than just 50% in their real life. Now, if you look at all what we teach the students in the textbook, how many of these things are needed? How many of these aspects are being asked in the examination? Now, you want to teach let me talk from the biology point of view, since I'm a biology teacher. All right, I've taught biology before. Now you discover that biology is known to be voluminous. The content of biology is known to be voluminous, but nevertheless, if you look at if you've been to examination coordination center, you discover that some of the needed things are just 2 lines, 3 lines. But teachers, we always bombard them, they must learn every aspect, which might not even be useful to them in real life. So technology should help in gaining mastery of concepts in curriculum and should put educators out of the rat's race of completing the curriculum. Just I've said that your aim as a teacher, I'm not neglecting the part that you need to complete the curriculum, but the most important thing is the mastery of the subject matter, mastery of the topic you're teaching them. Not, oh, the race of I just want to complete the curriculum, whereas the mastery level of the students is not even up to 24%, not to even talk about 50%. That's why we discovered that most teachers, I think, moving towards the exam period, we start rushing students. We start rushing students to read, okay, I've copied the notes in one class, go and copy it. So you still have like 4 or 5 topics to cover within 2 weeks. So thereby you now start doing relevant revision, bombarding 4 topics in 2 weeks, just because you want to complete the curriculum, whereas the mastery is not put into consideration. We need to put the learners into consideration in planning our classes. So technology helps in doing mastery, after you've taught them, just like what we talked about, the micro learning. When you teach them bit by bit, you assess them. You use formative assessment and not the summative assessment we used to. That is only when they are moving towards the exam period, you start doing revision of about 12, 11, 10 topics. Now, even for one topic, some are still struggling to get it. Now, moving now towards the end of the time, we want to do like revision on 11, 10 topics. Now we discover that at the end of everything, we start complaining. These students are too dull. We start using some words, some terms on them. Whereas all these things are boiled down to the teacher that we need to look in them. How do we teach them as a teacher? Does the method I use is even relevant to the students? Are they, are they able to catch up with the method I'm using? So we need, as a teacher, you need to teach them the mastery of, the student needs mastery, understanding of the subject matter. Now, what are the benefits? Now, student can finally master the concept while building a growth mindset. Now, one thing is that once their foundation is strong, the introductory aspect is strong, you've taught them to a certain aspect and they are sure. Even you yourself, you are sure. When you feel that satisfaction in you that, oh, with what the students have learned, I'm very sure if you ask them questions on what they've learned, they can give you up to 90%. That means even the remaining ones, the students themselves can learn it because you built the foundation, you build the background for them, you build the mindset. So they start growing on what you built for them. The classroom changes too. So students don't have to focus anymore on the lecture. They can now interact with each other and get deeper mastery over the materials. Now this one now is talking about the collaboration. Now when they collaborate together, you collaborate them, you group when you have group classes, group all the students. Now this one now gives room for individualized or differentiated learning. And also with this now, when they start sharing ideas amidst themselves, okay, let me share an experience as well. There was a time I wanted to teach something in math. Sometimes ago, I want to teach, I think, percentage increase and decrease. So what I planned initially was finding the percentage of a particular number, like increase 448 by 25%. I find 25% of 448, and what I get, I add it to 448. Now, in place of teaching the students are now, we're now discussing. I grouped them. So after the grouping, after tying out, okay, you guys, I want you guys now explain what's your answers and how you got to answer. It was then I learned a simpler method that even the students were now telling me, okay, what we can do instead of doing that, since you want to increase by 25%, why can't we add the 25 plus 100%, make it 125%? So instead of doing the long process, we can actually find 125% of that number, and that gives us the answer. So you see that now, because I allow the students to interact, they were able to share experiences and they have a deeper mastery. Unlike me coming to the class just to use the lecture method, since I am the math teacher, I now see myself as the alpha and omega of that class. And I just go to the class, okay, this is the method. And the students are finding it very boring and they're finding it more complicated. Whereas they have a simpler method, which we could arrive at the same answer. So we should be more focused on deeper mastery of what we're teaching than, this sense of, I just want to complete the scheme, we must complete the curriculum. Or any question so far on mastery learning? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, so any question, I'll give room for one or two questions. So we can continue.
I don't think there is a question. Maybe we can continue.
Okay, Nena, do you have anything to say?
Okay, no, nothing yet. I just think that
No question.
we'll be rounding up very soon, but we
Okay.
can have a series of, I think for the next training, I'll discuss with the organizers for us to go in depth into blended learning, so that the blended learning approach, so that they can learn more.
Okay, very fine. Very
Hello, good morning.
Good
Yeah,
morning.
good morning.
Now I just saw it. A recorded version of this will be dropped on the platform so that we can go through it and drop our questions thereafter. Yes, then you can answer.
Okay, no.
Yes, please. I don't intend to take us back, please.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. But from the little
right.
I've heard, few minutes I've come in, I think I've heard some things I'm familiar with, and something that I've not heard before. And I think I'll be the better person for it. Thank you.
Okay. So let's since I don't think we have much time for this video today. All right, so let's go to project-based learning.
Okay.
Now, in project-based learning, teacher plays a vital role in technology adoption. Are you saying anything? All right. So with teachers, we play vital roles in adopting this, technology. You can give students projects, and they come, in the process of doing the project, they are learning, right? So this was just like a practical class now. You can just tell them to build a particular thing as a project, then they come to the class to explain how those things are being done. Now, at their home, they will make research on how to do it, right? And some people will learn more from, because students love learning more from their peers. So as I'm giving them projects, some also are having, okay, I have this belief that, okay, in the next project, I'll bring something work now to challenge you as well. And in the process of challenging themselves, they're learning from each other. Now, even you can use technology in giving projects. You can give have a very simple experiment. You want them to carry out the experiment at their own comfort zone, just like what happens during the lockdown. Give the students, projects on some elements like Flipgrid. They get to record it, how all those things are being done, and as such, they're learning that all these things that I just like what I told you. Students learn more when they put their hands, when they are involved in the teaching learning, than when you teachers are just the one teaching them. Because when they see themselves as kings and queens. That, oh, I'm the one teaching the class, I'm the one doing this. So, and as they're doing the project, you can just tell them to build a torch, whereby you're teaching them electricity, and you just tell them to get two dry cell, get a bulb, get a wire, then connect it. Or you can just give them as a word problem to solve. So coming school next week, I'll give a project on this. Now, instead of you now coming to, spending your time teaching and all that, they will do it at home themselves, and we will have a better and more productive result.
Thank you very much. We will stop here now. Data-driven instruction is another leg entirely. But I don't know if we have any questions. If we have questions and comments, so that we can move on. And then I think this is where we draw the curtain. Thank you very much for listening to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, facilitator. We appreciate you.
Nena, can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Okay, we want to say thank you to Edverse. Edverse is, I think you should talk about Edverse for people that do not know. I think most teachers
I will
want to
let
relate to
I
their
don't know
school.
if Kende, do you have any adverse video here
Advanced video.
so that we can use technology to make it talk? But while you get the video ready, I'll just talk briefly about Edverse because of time. Edverse is a school management system software that helps you to automate all your school processes, from exams and records to school fees collection to inventory and to so many other things that we do in Edverse. So if you're interested in getting Edverse, we'll just drop our number so that you can join the live demo and get more information about it. So, and it's so affordable. We charge as low as 500 naira per child. 500 naira per child to 1,500 naira per child, depending on the plan you want to buy, you want to purchase. And then for any school owner who comes on board from this program, just use the code Director of Learning, mention my name, Mrs. Nena Okori, Director of Learning, you'll be given a 25% discount for setup. 25% discount for setup once you join using the code DOL Nena Okori, that the sales team will know it's coming from me. So if you want to join, I'll just drop my number here. Kende, please, can you drop our numbers? I'll just drop my number here now so that you can contact us later and then let us know when you want to start, and then the discount coupon will be given to you. So thank you very much.